Thank you. Okay, I'll begin by telling you a little story. I'd like to introduce to you Adam. He lives with his family in a typical suburb. And like most households, they regularly need to get rid of stuff they cannot throw in the normal trash bins, such as garden waste and bulky waste. But every time that's a major pain, because the family do not have access to a trailer, they don't even have a trailer hitch. But one day a friend of him tells him about a new service called Tiptapp. It's an app which you snap pictures of things that you need taken to the recycling center by someone else, and you decide how much you want to pay. So he immediately downloads this app, and in no time, he
Hold on, let's pause right there because I see some interesting looks on the faces already. What are you thinking already? He's going very, I like your pace. You're going right into it.
So don't interrupt me.
No. They're clearly thinking things, though, at this point. And I want the audience to hear what an investor is thinking on slide 3 as it's happening to them.
So currently I'm thinking 3 things probably. First, wow, hell of a service, I love that. I go to the recycling center every weekend. But then I think, hey, that's the only hour in the week where I actually have some time alone. As a small kid, so you're gonna pay someone for like that moment of bit of quiet time. So and then
Maybe they're hurrying.
That's the first time I heard that.
So if I can join the person maybe as a company while they throw away. And then of course I'm thinking, yeah, but isn't this will block it this far? Just put it and you try to sell it, get up. I know it's not the case, but yeah.
I'm just renovating my apartment, so I have tons of things that can't go in Blocket. I'm going to Tiptapp tonight.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So, well, I'm thinking clearly me and Daniel have very different lives. I'm thinking this is
You're not hanging out at the recycle center doing it.
I can definitely see that you can build a beautiful service doing this, but I'm thinking it's not something you do very often. But yeah, you just need to find your sector.
When you find the right.
I think maybe once a year or something.
But sometimes this happens in pitch meetings with the partners, right? They come into and some of the partners like, I don't get this at all, and one of the partners like, that's me, I'm your user. Like this happens?
That's why you should not have consensus decisions. You should have majority. Because great ideas will not always be appreciated by the whole team.
Mm.
But I'm thinking...
Is that true of the portfolio companies you have? Some people fought very hard for, some people fought against?
Yeah, so
who fought against Spotify?
Actually, no one fought against Spotify. But I think, Johan, our colleague, who's in the US together with 3 other Creandum individuals.
With Johan, yeah.
He was previously a partner with Benchmark, and Benchmark made their firm on eBay, right? That fund was 61 times, 63 times the money, I think for the LPs, 45 times the money, so outstanding. But it was a 3-over-2 vote, so there are 5 partners, right? Google, on the other hand, was a 2 versus 3.
Oh.
So the point with that is that the things that in the end are phenomenal are not straightforward and obvious when you see them. I mean, we started talking to Spotify in January of 2007. There were 10 reasons not to do it. The labels, piracy, thin margins, I can name 5 other ones.
Sure.
So you should not have consensus because you will make the mainstream decisions rather than the odd ones that turn out great in the end.
And can I add to that? I think that's also a great reason to have more versatile investment teams, right? If everyone would live next to Daniel and we will only do this type of investments, but being a little bit different in age and where we come from makes it easier.
So I'm thinking great idea, even though I'm a bit in Daniel's camp, but also labor cost. Because there are services like this in the US, you have versions of this, but labor cost, is killing it unless you have a smart solution to that.
Well, essentially,
Wait and see.
you're already, what you're essentially doing is you're preemptively already thinking of why this won't work. Yeah, that's the nature of this game. Of the pitch starts, and early on you start thinking, it's not going to work for this reason, this reason, this reason, and then it's on them to prove that's wrong. Essentially,
I think it's the balance, right? In every single thing we look at, there are, as in the Spotify case, so many reasons not to do it.
Yep.
But it's about believing, right? So you have to find the things that are outstanding. To find the issues, that's easy.
Yep.
We hire a lot of smart people. We always find the issues.
Yep.
But to find what's exceptional, that's really hard. And to be willing to make that bet on the few, because there are few exceptional items, that's the trick.
Okay, so what does he have to do? Matt, what do you imagine would be the right thing he would need to say to get enough excitement to overcome the...
Well, so first of all, I think he's off to a great start because he doesn't fiddle around. He goes straight into it.
Yeah.
After a minute, we know what it's about. And now he needs to talk about labor cost.
All right, go ahead.
So, in no time, he managed to post his first ad of a broken table that's been in his garage for some time. In a while, he receives notifications from someone willing to pick it up, and he goes ahead and leaves it out in the driveway because he doesn't have to be at home when someone's coming for it. Later, when he gets back from work, he can confirm that the table is gone and the money is sent automatically through the app. So, really easy for Adam, and now he can spend time doing other things that he likes in the weekend. And for others who might be going there anyway with their own stuff, it's easy money for them, and it's an extra income. And both users in this app can get to help out a little bit by saving the environment by using cars less. So I'm here today to pitch you Tiptapp, and my name is Tim. This is where I wanted to get as fast as possible. We're a team of 4 people working full-time on this right now. And we're quite a senior team with a lot of experience. We have 3 engineering guys and 1 business guy being me. And when we thought about the opportunities in the wake of the sharing economy, we were mostly intrigued by the concept of ride sharing, as it really uses resources so much smarter. So if you think about it, if you are going from one place to another, and if you were willing to make a small detour to drop off or pick up something, you might want a small compensation for that. But for someone else, it might be worth so much more. So the market price is obviously going to be a clear win-win for both, and most likely lower for what any professional services can compete with. So we made it our mission to enable more this type of ride sharing among consumers with just a click of a button. And now we want to become the largest, fastest, and most resource efficient peer-to-peer driven platform for recycling. Because recycling is a broken experience for many. In Sweden and other EU markets, you'd have to go far outside the city, a long way to go, you need a car. If you're lucky, you might have a container or a truck coming around at certain intervals, but most likely not. If you want to use a professional service, you'd have to call them up perhaps, fill out a form, and pay quite pricey per cubic meter, and that's not a pleasant experience. So what most people tend to do is use their valuable storage space to put away junk. So here, for example, there's a lady complaining in a tenant's magazine that she's forced to put all the junk in the attic because they closed down the dedicated storage room for bulky waste in her building. With Tiptapp, our users can advertise for free. They can use it to secure payments. And there's really no need for communication. You simply just tap to confirm things. So no dialogue and no need for scheduled appointments. And people only pay, of course, if they get the help they expect. And that's where Tiptapp takes a cut. So we are talking about these trips to recycling centers, but also the shorter trips to recycling stations. You know, where you go with your plastics and papers and bottles, etc. And then there's the case if you throw away things that still has a value for someone else, and we call that reuse. But we're building a business case around the trips to recycling stations, and we estimate those to be about €500 million per year in the top 10 EU markets with a similar ecosystem for recycling as Sweden. And we expect people to be willing to pay somewhere between €5 and €100 for this help. There's a lot more trips to the recycling stations, but for this people will be willing to pay less. And then in the case of reuse, you're obviously giving away something that's free. That happens in Blocket, as we heard before. So that obviously has to be free, but that helps us broaden the use case of this and helps us stay top of mind. And who's providing this help? Well, we see 2 groups. There's the one neighbor living nearby or someone passing by on the route that's going themselves. But there's also a group in society that might be looking for a convenient extra job, such as the Uber Pop drivers. And we've been talking to them and they're really excited about this opportunity. So, we have an approved version ready to be launched in App Store, and we're about to do some market tests in Stockholm, one inside Stockholm to cover the apartments and that problem, and one outside to cover houses. And we know that our biggest challenge ahead is going to be to crack the formula how to make this grow at a reasonable cost and to come and stay top of mind. So that's where we'll have a focus right now, when we have some interesting ideas. So we're right now in talks with some investors about a first possible investment, and we hope to get on board the right firm, right people to at this stage to help us through the launch phase. And we are simply just now ready to do with the recycling experience, so what Uber has done to the taxi business or Swish has done to payments. We really want to change that. And I bet you there's at least a number of guys of you in the audience that would love to have this right now. I know we do at least. So thank you very much.
So Daniel, what do you say we take your truck this weekend, you and me, and go around?
And our money, so. I mean, thank you for not mentioning Uber until the very last point. I mean, it was inevitable. Yeah. So that is of course the. On one hand, it was kind of revealing that you didn't take the quick route to or shortcut to use Uber. It would have been quite natural. Of course, the benefit if you had used it you wouldn't have to spend 3 minutes explaining what the service is doing. Because that was pretty clear from the get-go. So the tricky thing with this one is that I mean, as much as we would like it or not, how much we can relate it to it or not, this is going to be very much down to creating that liquidity, which is super hard for any kind of marketplace. And here you're doing it peer-to-peer, and it's worked in very few cases, right? So is this sort of a behavior which is often enough, and will that neighbor be having some space, or will at that point firing up the app while the other guys have something? So creating like liquidity is super hard, and you need critical mass, right? So. Yeah. Immediately comes to scaling issues and stuff like that, right? So
put some numbers on it though. What number of drivers in the system would you need, and what kind of revenue would they need? I would imagine the tipping point for you, the moment you'll get excited, is when the Uber Pop driver can make more doing this than Uber.
He can.
Then why didn't you say this in the pitch?
No, I said they were really excited about it.
No,
no, you're right.
But that's the difference between him going, I don't know, this seems difficult, and here's my check.
Right.
But if the Uber Pop driver, that's like your biggest slide.
That's what we think, at least. But
is it in your pocket? Because it wasn't in the deck. You got to have the slide of the Uber driver going like this, which is like making more money on you than on that. And then you would have seen that slide, and you'd be like, wait a minute, right?
And I think, I mean, of course, this is a short pitch, and it's more about describing the service. Sure. Immediately we would think about, labor costs, as Stefan mentioned, creating this liquidity, and how you're going to get the cost efficiently users on each side, right? It's all about that, right? So we would, after 2 minutes, we would probably stop and say, hey, nice, okay, tell me about this. How are you going to find the drivers in a cost efficient manner? How are you going to find the garbage guys or the gals that
this is back to my point, because if the Uber Pop driver makes more doing this, he's going to tell all the other Uber Pop drivers will find out in a weekend.
But that rarely happens.
You want to invest now? What's the valuation right now?
We actually think that.
How much money you raised?
I'm not going to tell you now. Sorry.
We might be able to get you money by tomorrow if you can prove that the Uber Pop driver.
We're happy to take meetings. We're just starting.
Here's the number. You have to figure out how much they're going to make per trip, per time. Measure that against their driving with Uber Pop. Have them as testimonials saying, "I'm now making twice as much more doing this as I did with Uber Pop," and then you're interested at that point, yeah? Let's go do this.
Just wait a week or two, and then we'll have some real.
Let me make
give me
1% of the company. I'll make the slide. And Daniel will drive.
Excellent.
Okay. Well done. And are you ready to do it? I'll give you my microphone here. You ready? Yeah. Go ahead.